Girl, let me show you something. See this? This thick yellow envelope right here with the court seal on the front. This the moment I realized this wasn't no disagreement. This wasn't just some messy breakup, but this was a case. And everything inside this envelope was the key. For 6 long years, I let my own heart make a fool of me. But this paper right here, this paper was gonna make me whole again. If I had ignored that one little detail on that one bank statement, if I had just let it slide like I let everything else slide, none of this would have happened. They would have won. And I'm telling you this, woman to woman, sometimes the devil ain't in the details. The whole entire blessing is. I learned so much, Chile. By the end of this, I'm going to tell you the 3 things I'd tell any girl who finds herself in a situation like this. The 3 things that would have saved me a world of pain. But you gotta hear the whole story first to even understand. It all started back in Atlanta. You know how I am. I'm the worker, the responsible one. My younger sister, Crystal, she was always the star. The flashy one everybody paid attention to. I was just Tanisha. Steady, reliable. The one you call when you need something, not the one you call to have a good time. And I was okay with that, you know? I found my pride in my work. And then I met Jamal. He was at Emory, trying to get through med school, smart as a whip, but broke as a joke. He had this vision for his life, for our life, and girl, I fell for the vision. I fell hard. He told me, babe, if you can just hold us down for a few years, just until I graduate, I promise you, you will never have to work another day in your life. We gon' have everything. And I believed him. On everything, I believed him. So I went to work, and when I say work, I mean I worked. I was on that early shift managing the warehouse out by Hartsfield, Jackson, the one where you gotta be there at 4 a.m. Then after that, I'd go straight to my cashier job at the Kroger on Howell Mill, smiling in people's faces when my feet were screaming. And 3 nights a week, I was downtown, cleaning offices in one of them big glass buildings, just me and my shadow and the smell of Windex. I was putting in 80-hour weeks, easy, all so he could just focus on school. I paid the rent on our little apartment in Decatur. I paid for his books, his scrubs. I made sure he had food to eat and a quiet place to study. I was building a future for us. Or so I thought. My family, though. Chile, they ain't never see me. My mama, Darlene, and my daddy Reggie, they were so busy gassing up Crystal, talking about her new little promotion or the car she leased. When they looked at Jamal, they ain't see the man I was building up. They saw a future doctor they could brag about, somebody good enough for their favorite daughter. I used to catch them, you know? The little looks between my mama and Crystal when Jamal would talk about his residency plans. The way my daddy would clap him on the back and say, "You're going to be a great man for this family." And I was so blind, I thought he meant the family me and Jamal were building. The minute he started his residency, something shifted. It was like a switch flipped. He started acting brand new. All of a sudden, my clothes weren't right, my friends were too loud, the way I talked was embarrassing to him in front of his new doctor friends. He was staying out later and later. Hospital stuff, he'd say. And I'd just nod and heat up his dinner. I was tired, girl. I was too tired to fight. I just kept telling myself, this is the stress. Once he's an attending, it'll all go back to normal. It'll all be worth it. But I think, deep down, I've been new. My gut was screaming at me, but my heart kept putting its hands over its ears. The real point of no return was his graduation party. I threw the whole thing. Spent money. I ain't really have to rent out a nice little spot. Got it catered, invited everybody. I was so proud of him. I was standing there watching him shake hands and smile, and I saw him pull my sister Crystal to the side. And he ain't just pull her to the side, he pulled her into a corner. And they was all hugged up, whispering. And it wasn't no family hug. You know what I'm talking about. It was intimate. I saw him kiss her on the forehead, and the way she looked up at him. Chilly. The whole room just went quiet in my head. I walked over there, my heart pounding in my ears, and I said, What's going on? And Jamal, he looked at me like I was dirt on his shoe. He said, Tanisha, not now. We're celebrating. And before I could even open my mouth to say another word, my own mama, Darlene, she stepped right in between us. She put her hand on my chest and said, Tanisha, don't you dare ruin this day for him. Stop being so selfish. Selfish. After 6 years of breaking my back. After funding his entire dream on my aching feet and tired hands. My own mother called me selfish for wanting to know why the man I loved was holding my sister like she was his prize. That was it for me. That was the moment the dream died. I just turned around, walked out of that party, and I ain't never looked back. A few days later, they tried to send me on my way. Not with a conversation, not with an apology. Nah. They sent my daddy, Reggie, to my door. He came talking all calm and reasonable. He slid a check for $5,000 across my coffee table and dangled the keys to my old 2012 Toyota Camry in front of my face. He said, Jamal and Crystal are together now. It's for the best. This is to help you get on your feet. Just sign this little paper, and we can all move on. A little paper. Girl, it was an NDA. They wanted to buy my silence and my whole future for $5,000 and a car I basically already paid for. I looked at my own father, this man who was supposed to protect me, and I just felt nothing. The love I had for them had curdled into something cold and hard in my chest. I told him to get out of my house. I'm not gonna lie, I fell apart for a minute. I was sitting in that empty apartment, surrounded by 6 years of his books and his clothes and our broken promises. I got a notice from my main job at the warehouse, a formal termination. They said my performance had been slipping. I knew it was him. He must have called my manager, said something, anything, to get me out. He was trying to cut me off at the knees, leave me with nothing. And that's when the sadness turned into something else. It turned into fire. I remembered this woman from my old neighborhood, Miss Evie. She was a lawyer, sharp as a tack, one of them old school ladies who ain't take no mess from nobody. I scraped together the last of my savings for a consultation fee, and I walked into her office on a Tuesday morning with my one little box of papers. Miss Evie. She looked at me over her glasses and just listened. She ain't interrupt me once. When I was done, she just nodded slowly and said, Okay, baby girl, let's see what we're working with. She told me to get every bank statement, every pay stub, every receipt I could find from the last 6 years. So I did. I spent a whole weekend digging through my file cabinets, printing out emails, going to the bank for old statements, and we laid it all out on her big conference table, and that's when we found it. That one little detail. A student loan disbursement statement, Jamal had told me, swore to me up and down that he wasn't taking out any loans, that my money was covering everything. But here it was in black and white, federal loans, for the full cost of tuition every single semester. So I sat there like, wait a minute. If the government was paying for his school, where did my money go? All those 80-hour weeks, all that cash I was depositing into our joint account, where was it? Miss Evie got this look in her eye. She said, We need to subpoena the records for that joint account. And when we got them back, girl, Chile, I'm telling you, I almost threw up right there in her office. Every single week, for almost 6 years, 2 days after I deposited my paychecks, there was a transfer out, the exact same amount, to another account, an account that wasn't in my name. It was in his name. And my mama's, Darlene. They had been funneling my money, my blood, sweat, and tears into a secret account. We're talking over $200,000. I just sat there, looking at the printouts. My hands were shaking. All those nights I came home too tired to even eat. All those holidays I worked. For this betrayal. It was deeper than I could have ever imagined, and I thought that was the worst of it. I really did. I ain't have no idea we was just getting started. Ms. Evie hired a private investigator, a real quiet professional dude, and he found where the money went. Jamal and Crystal had used my 200 grand as a down payment on a luxury condo in Buckhead. They bought it 6 months before he even graduated. The whole time, he was telling me to be patient. He was building a life with my sister in a high rise with my money. But that still wasn't the thing that broke me. Nah. The thing that broke me was what the investigator found next. He found a life insurance policy, $1 million policy, taken out on me by Jamal a year and a half ago, with him as the sole beneficiary. I'm sitting in Ms. Evie's office, looking at this paperwork, and I'm like, this can't be real. This is stuff you see in a movie. And Ms. Evie, she just looked at me real serious and said, Tanisha, have you been feeling unwell lately? And girl, it was like a dam broke in my mind. For the last year, I'd been so tired. Not just work tired. I'm talking about a deep, heavy fatigue, dizzy spells, brain fog. I went to urgent care a couple times and they just said I was overworked, probably anemic. But Jamal, he was always so helpful, making me tea at night, bringing me a glass of water and my vitamins in the morning. He'd say, you gotta take care of yourself, babe. Can't have my baby getting sick. Ms. Evie had me go get a full toxicology screening done, hair, blood, everything. And there it was, small steady doses of a prescription sedative, the kind that over time would cause heart complications. It wouldn't look suspicious. It would just look like a tired, overworked woman whose body finally gave out. He wasn't just leaving me, he was trying to erase me. And my family? My mama, at least. She was in on the money part. Was she in on this too? I didn't know. I couldn't even let my mind go there. That's when Miss Evie laid out the plan. She said, they think you're broken. They think they got you cornered because they got you fired. We're gonna use that. We filed a civil suit for the money. Just the money. We ain't say nothing about the insurance policy, nothing about the drugs. We made it look like a simple case of financial dispute between exes. Predictably, their lawyer came back talking tough. They offered $20,000, a nuisance fee. Ms. Evie said, perfect. She sent back a counteroffer. She said, Tanisha will sign an NDA and walk away from everything for $1 and the deed to the Buckhead condo. Their lawyer laughed, but Jamal, see, his ego was his downfall. He thought he was the smartest man in every room. He saw a chance to shut me up for good. He thought she doesn't know what the condo is worth. She just wants a place to live. She's desperate. He thought he was winning. So they agreed. We all met for a formal mediation. Jamal was there, looking all smooth in a tailored suit. He slid the signed deed transfer across the table to me, with this smug little smirk on his face. He ain't know that signature was the last nail he was ever gonna hammer himself. He ain't know Ms. Evie had already sent the toxicology report and the insurance policy to the Fulton County District Attorney's Office. The civil case was just the bait. The real trap was about to spring. The final hearing for the civil suit was scheduled for a month later. It was supposed to be a formality, just to get the settlement agreement entered into the court record. They all showed up. Jamal, Crystal, my mama Darlene, my daddy Reggie. They walked in like they owned the place, all dressed up. Crystal had the nerve to wear this bright white dress, like she was some kind of innocent angel. They felt safe. They had the signed NDA. They thought I was legally gagged, that I couldn't say a word about anything else. They thought it was over. Their lawyer called them up to the stand, one by one, just to testify that the agreement was entered into willingly. And they lied. Girl, they lied under oath like it was breathing. Jamal got up there and talked about how he'd always cared for me, but we just grew apart, and he wanted to make sure I was taken care of. Crystal got up there crying crocodile tears, talking about how she never meant to hurt her sister. My own mama got on that stand and said she only helped with the account, to help Jamal manage his finances for him and me. They were painting this picture of themselves as saints, and me as this scorned, unstable woman they were generously taking care of. And I just sat there. I let them talk. I let them dig their own graves. When they were all done, the judge looked at me and asked if I had anything to say. Miss Evie stood up and said, "Your Honor, Miss Washington has no statement, but she would like to submit one final document for the record." And that's when I stood up. I picked up that thick yellow envelope from the table beside me, the one we started with. I walked right up to the bench, calm as anything, and I placed it right in front of the judge. I didn't look at them. I ain't have to. I could feel their eyes burning into my back. I could feel their confusion turning to panic. The judge picked it up. He opened the clasp, and he started pulling out the pages. I saw his eyebrows go up. He's looking at the wire transfer records with my mama's name on them. He's looking at the printouts of the secret account. He's looking at the $1 million life insurance policy. He's looking at the toxicology report from the lab with my name at the top and a list of drugs that ain't have no business being in my system. Then he got to the text messages between Jamal and Crystal, the ones the investigator pulled where they were laughing about me being so out of it lately and planning their future in our condo. The judge's face got hard. He looked up from the papers, not at me, but at them. His voice was quiet, but it cut through that courtroom like a razor. He said, "I've seen enough." And in that same moment, the back doors of the courtroom opened. 2 uniformed officers stepped in, followed by a man in a suit who I knew was the prosecutor from the DA's office. He'd been sitting in the back row the whole time, just listening. Jamal jumped up. His lawyer was saying, "Your Honor, what is this? This is a civil matter." But the judge just banged his gavel. He said, "Not anymore, it ain't." The courtroom doors were locked, and then it happened. The prosecutor walked right up to their table and said their names. Jamal, Crystal, Darlene, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit wire fraud. Then he looked straight at Jamal and attempted murder. Girl. The look on their faces, the color drained out of them. Crystal started screaming. My mama just crumpled in her chair. My daddy looked like he had seen a ghost. They put them all in cuffs, right there in front of God and everybody. They walked them out of that courtroom I had built with my own 2 hands, and I just sat there and watched it all burn down. I got my money back and then some from the civil suit. I sold that condo in Buckhead so fast it would make your head spin. I took that money, packed up my life, and I left Atlanta in my rearview mirror. I started over somewhere quiet, somewhere peaceful, somewhere I could finally heal, and that's when I finally understood. Then those 3 lessons I told you about. First, your gut ain't never lying to you. As women, we're taught to be nice, to be patient, to make excuses for people. But that little voice inside you that says something ain't right, that's the only voice you need to be listening to. Second, document everything. I don't care if it feels petty. Save the receipt, screenshot the text, print the email. You never know when you're going to need to show your work. And paper don't have no opinion. It just tells the truth. Third, and this the one I need you to hear, sis. The best revenge ain't loud. It's not about yelling or screaming or getting even. It's about letting people's own actions create their own consequences. You just stand back, stay calm, and let the truth do the work for you. That yellow envelope didn't just hold the evidence, it held my freedom. And I'm telling you right now, ain't nothing in this world feel better than that.
Thank you, Tanisha, for sharing this story with us. Chile, I'm telling you, that was a journey. To go from breaking your back for a dream you thought you were building with somebody, only to find out you were just the funding for a nightmare they was planning behind your back. Imagine that. But you stood tall through it all, and in that quiet courtroom, you let the truth speak for itself. And it spoke loud and clear. Now listen, there are some powerful lessons for all of us in Tanisha's story. For real. First off, her instincts at that party were screaming at her, but her own mama tried to hush her up, calling her selfish. The mistake folks stay making is letting somebody else tell you how you ought to feel. Don't let nobody ever shame you for listening to that little voice inside. And then, she kept her records. We don't think about it, but those little pieces of paper are your history. They tell the facts when feelings get all tangled up. If I had to break this down for somebody going through something similar, I'd say this: keep your proof, because paper don't lie and it don't forget. But here, the most important part: Tanisha learned that revenge ain't always loud. See, her power wasn't in screaming and fighting. Her power was in that yellow envelope. She had a civil case to get her money back, which is one thing. Let me break that down. That's about property. But what they did with that insurance policy and those drugs, honestly, that was a whole other level. That's when it get real, because that's a crime. She just let them walk right into a trap they built themselves. Here a rule to remember: you ain't never got to raise your voice when the facts are on your side. Tanisha done been through the fire, but she came out strong, and most important, she came out free. She found her peace, and at the end of the day, that's the only victory that truly matters. If this story gave you something to think about, go ahead and subscribe and hit that thumbs up. It sure does help the channel reach more folks who might need to hear these stories. Let me know in the comments which city or state y'all watching from. And right now on the screen, you're going to see other videos from the channel. Click one and let's keep going.